A question that I had, um, well, something that I really appreciate about each of your works is how they document present crisis conditions while providing a really generous framework for thinking about the emergence of new worlds and new relations. And I was thinking specifically, Wendy, about your poem from Cruel Fiction, Trampa de Dedos, or Finger Trap.
Mhm.
And the line is, I have it written down: if talking about the past historically doesn't mean recognizing it the way it really was, to what extent does it involve something like translation? So I'm thinking about that, and a question that surfaces in both of your writing is how to understand history and who gets to hold it, who translates it, who weaponizes it. And so, how do each of you negotiate this, the historical with the futural, where we're thinking or envisioning a communist horizon?
I'd actually like to hear Zaina talk about this because she talked about it earlier with the students and I think did a really good job talking about the carcass poem.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Alex, and thanks, Wendy. That reading was beautiful. I think for me, and for a lot of people, one of the reasons why I think so many of us who come from um, colonized peoples, oppressed nationalities, why we find comfort and um, dignity in a decolonial or anti-capitalist ideology is because it finally gives us, right, a way of reading history in which we get to exist. And so I think for me, um, it's not that I'm just so like brilliant and creative. It's that like I'm grounded in like a particular ideological tradition. And that ideological tradition says that history is composed of a set of infinite simultaneous contradictions. Um, and that within those contradictions, one of the most important ones is that people who are facing indignities, facing oppression, facing violence from a dominant actor are always constantly recreating ourselves. We are never flattened. We are never fully destroyed. We are always reconstituting. We're always like creating new languages, new forms of loving ourselves and one another, new ways to like stay alive, and new ways to fight back, all across the spectrum, from the brutal to the mundane, banal, and gentle. And so for me, the reason why I started this reading mentioning communism and mentioning the communists is that for me it is so deeply important and like fundamental to my existence on this planet, that like the people who are my relatives, my kindred, have a way of reading history in which we get to coexist with dignity. And that's why I write. That's why I organize. For me, they're always in conversation with one another. So yeah, some thoughts.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Um, I mean, I kind of feel like Zaina said it really well. I'm in a different situation in some ways, but what I love about communism and things like anarchism too is that um, we can share those traditions and those. It's a really long one. Uh, yeah, I don't think that. I think that way of putting it, feeling rooted in a tradition, is the most important thing. You know, it's really hard to figure, like, to orient yourself to whatever reality is current without that. And I've been really appreciative that such a thing exists, and that, like, I can look at Benjamin, which is where I, got that quote from. uh, People have been doing this a long time. People have been fighting this fight a long time.